In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God.
Amen.
I'm feeling blue today. It's an obvious liturgical joke there. Tomorrow is the feast of the presentation of the Mother of the God into the temple. And a pastoral provision that our archdiocese allows, because it's a Monday liturgy, and really the only way to offer that liturgy would be on a Monday morning. We do have the discretion as pastors of moving it to a Sunday so that more people can participate. And because I was feeling blue, I have a special affinity for the Mother of God. We did move that feast to today. So that is our celebration. So even though there are elements of the resurrection that are still part of the service that we hear, the feast is very much for the Mother of God. And so one of the details you notice, we didn't sing the hymn for St. Luke. It's because the Mother of God kind of trumps that today. Briefly about the feast, and then I'll unpack some of what it is all about. I like to think that and present that feasts of the Mother of God are basically a bookend and context to the life and ministry of Jesus Christ. Because, of course, as his mother, I almost said her mother, as his mother, the Mother of God, of course, was born before him. And we begin the church year in September, and the first major feast, September 8th, is her birth. So that's the opening bookend on the liturgical year and the feasts that we have. Then we have two intervening feasts. The one we're celebrating today, her presentation at the temple as a little girl. And then in March, and this always happens during Great Lent, is the Annunciation, when she is told that she is pregnant with the Son of God. And then the fourth and final feast, which is in mid-August, August 15th, part of why I like being blue, that's my birthday. I always get to have liturgy on my birthday, is her dormition, or her falling asleep. So that's the closing bookend that we see in this. So her life and her ministry envelops the life and ministry, the earthly life and ministry of Jesus Christ. Well, what specifically are we looking at this particular feast? We hear about her presentation at the temple. What is that all about? Part of it relates to the story of her birth, her nativity. Her parents, Joachim and Anna, were older in years and childless. And they prayed to God that they would be given a child. And they were prayed that, and part of their prayer was, if we are given this child, it may sound counterintuitive to us, we will dedicate her to the service of God. So we'll get this child, but then we will immediately give away this child, as it were. And so for the first 3 years of her life, she lived at home. Her mom was very careful about keeping her in one room and keeping all profane things out of that room, a holy room, as it were. And then when she was 3 years old, she was considered old enough and mature enough to be handed over to the temple in Jerusalem. And in a sense, it was a boarding school, as it were. So for the next 9 years, she got to live at the temple, help out around the temple, and be educated. So the story is her family was bringing her to the temple. And it was the sort of thing where the parents were leading. And then there were a number of virgins from the temple who were carrying tapers. We can actually kind of see this. I always put the festal icon over here. I don't know if everyone knows that. But until we kind of figure out what we're doing in here in this place, that's where I put it. So if I have a feast day, the icon is over there. So initially, it is this group of virgins who are leading the Mother of God. And then as they get closer to the temple, she comes to the front of the line. And as we're told in the story of the feast at the Orthodox service, her parents put her on the first step of the temple. There's 15 steps. And she ran the remaining steps up to the high priest, at that time who was Zechariah, John the Baptist's dad, family member. And she was taken into the temple, and not just into the temple building itself, but into the Holy of Holies, that one place in the temple that the priest went once a year. No one else went in there, and he took her in there. And she remained there for those 9 years. And she actually wanted to continue remaining there, but she got married off to some guy named Joseph. Preview of coming attractions. The feast is not necessarily related to the season that we're in, the Nativity fast, but there are enough markers there because we are anticipating that feast that we can look in that direction. So I can mention Joseph, but I won't talk about him today. So there's this sense that the parents made this commitment, dedicating that child to God, and they followed through on that. Now, in a similar way, all of us parents have done that with our children. New baby's born. We're very excited about the new baby. In terms of the church, what is one of the first conversations that we have? Of course, there are all the things that the priest does. He'll come and visit as soon as the baby's born. 8 days after the baby's born, he will say prayers that names the child. 40 days after the baby's born, the child is welcomed into the church with the mother for the churching, as we commonly call it. But that's all preparatory. We baptize our babies. We don't question that. It's a baby, we baptize the baby. That's where we dedicate that child to God. Just as Joachim and Anna dedicated the Theotokos to the temple. Now, as I often will share, one of the differences that we have as an Orthodox church is in our baptism service, we give that baby everything, so to speak. We don't just baptize them, but they're chrismated. Other churches, they call that confirmation. They wait till the child is, preteen, early teens. They space it out. We're like, nope, gifts of the Holy Spirit, you have it. Nothing more in that regard. And the baby is also given their first communion as a baby. Other churches, they'll do this thing where they wait until they're in elementary school or older. Oh, you can come for communion now. So really, at the end of the baptism service, that baby is fully part of the church. But of course, we understand and recognize that that child needs help and formation to grow into a mature Orthodox Christian. So I'll talk about that in a moment. First, I want to offer a story. I occasionally share this story, and I think many of you are familiar with this story, but it undergirds what I just said about baptism and how I understand our life together in a parish and the children in our midst. So this story, in a sense, it's an origin story. So freshly minted priest, I'd been a priest about a year when I graduated seminary, put in my first parish. It was a small mission parish. I was actually sent to succeed the founding pastor who was retiring. And the interesting dynamic is about a third to a half of the parish was his extended family. So I arrived in the summer, and I remember the following spring. I was getting ready to offer an evening liturgy for the Feast of St. George, and I'm getting ready to go to church. And I got a phone call from the parish council chair. He said, "Father, I'm meeting with a number of parishioners tomorrow, and we want to talk about how you've been serving us the last 9 months. And I thought I should at least let you know that. But there are concerns." So I said, okay. I went and served liturgy. I heard there was a meeting. And then it was, the parish council wants to meet with you Sunday after liturgy. And I met with the parish council for an hour. And most of it was airing of grievances. And it was airing of grievances of, you don't do things like retired father so-and-so does. Your wife doesn't do things the way retired priest's wife so-and-so does. So It was striking in the sense of how inappropriate that all was. But realizing the position that I was in the room and the way to get the community past this, swallowed my pride, very objective, and thought through everything that they said, and said, okay, none of this is a deal breaker, so to speak. I can work with them on all of these concerns, and we can move ahead. So I thought, very difficult meeting. We're almost done. Retired priest's son-in-law, parish council member. Last statement he makes. Oh, by the way, Father, Rachel needs to take Ben out of liturgy because he's a distraction. And I knew right then and there my days in that parish were numbered because that was a non-negotiable. Another part of the culture of that parish was they had church school. I'll put that in air quotes, church school, every Sunday of the year during liturgy. So you'd have kids that would come in, they'd receive communion, and they'd leave. They were never in liturgy. Liturgy was adult prayer time. So you have that compared with what we're given by the church. You baptize your child, they're fully a member of the church. Disconnect. So I tried to write it out. 3 months later, I asked the bishop, can I please leave this parish because it's just not working? And he removed me. So the contrast is very much that understanding and the picture. And this is something that I very much love about our parish, is the sense that the children are part of our community. You have never heard me say, and you will never hear me say, that the children are the future of the church. The children are the church, and they belong here. And so this undergirds a lot of my philosophy, as it were, of parish ministry with respect towards children. So what are some of the things that we keep in mind and that we do? So in a sense, I'm telling you things you already know, but I feel it's occasionally good to just kind of re-emphasize those. And we see it today. A few things. Coming for Sunday liturgy as a family is a normal thing. It's not an extraordinary thing. And week in, week out, you demonstrate that. We get up on Sunday morning, we go to church, all of us. And you come to church. If we treat church as extraordinary, especially with respect to our children, they're strangers. It's this thing they occasionally do. Well, I'm here, I kind of see things, but I don't remember it. But if every Sunday morning they get out of bed, they get dressed, they go to church, it's a normal thing. And the faith is theirs. If they're not introduced to the faith, they don't experience the faith. You all know that. Something I haven't emphasized in a while, and we're kind of, we don't really have any families here today that are in that category. Small children, so like kindergarten and younger, small children. They should be in the front of the church. I know there's this thing with, especially with like new children, like babies, the mom needs to run out, take care of the baby, if the dad's a good dad, he may have to go and change a diaper. And so often those families will be in the back, or there will be churches that have cry rooms. My philosophy is the cry room is for the people who are sad that the kids are in church. That's what you have a cry room for, not for the babies. I do understand, though, that being said, moms often need to step out, and moms often need a place where they can go and address baby stuff. And that's okay. When the baby's getting old enough that they're aware of what's going on, they really need to be up front so they can see and hear everything. So if they're in the back, they hear stuff, they'll occasionally see stuff, but they're adrift in a sea of heads and shoulders, all of you standing up. The adults get in the way. Glad you're here, but you get in the way. The kids should be up front. And really, This is borne out by the experience that I had with my boys. They can see a procession. I mean, little entrance. We come out here, come back in. If you're in the back, you can miss that. But that breaks up liturgy for the kids. What's happening next? Those guys are coming out, and they're carrying stuff, and they're dressed fancy. And there's Father, and he's got the gospel book. That's also part of why we do the procession with the icons at the great entrance, with the little kids. Now, don't understand that as, oh, this is cute, we're giving the kids something to do because it's cute. The thinking is, what can the kids do and participate in? It's an easy thing for them to do. It's not tricky. Well, they can walk with an icon. But they learn things there. Like there's the whole thing. All the kids probably know this. You pick up the icons, they face each other when they're laying flat. So when you put it back, the two icons' faces face each other. You don't put front to back. They learn that. This is how you respect an icon. They also walk together. And they kind of, it's this thing, you have to line up. Don't everybody stand on one side and leave one guy over here. You stagger. They learn that. They know what to expect in a great entrance. So when they get older, they can tell other kids, hey, this is how you're supposed to stand. This is what you do with an icon. And the younger kids, as they grow up, they can learn about these things. So we find those things that they can do and they can participate in. And part of that's by seeing what's in the front here. Okay, the last thing. I know there's often a criticism in parishes that some priests will offer a lot of services. I actually converted in a parish where crazy convert priest, he did liturgy every day. Every single day. Monday through Sunday. And if you lived near the church, he had the expectation that you were in church every day. That's crazy convert parish. What we get is our archdiocese very much says, this is what a normal parish functions like, and here are the services you offer. And they will put guidance on that. So they may offer more, and they say, if the parish has the strength, you can offer these additional services. But the things that we offer in this parish are very much the norm in our archdiocese. And where I've put that, and it's in the bulletin, we have these 12 great feasts. Every time we have one of those, I put all of those feasts in there. And the thought there is you'll take that bulletin home and you'll write those dates on your calendar so you know when they happen. But how do our children know there are great feasts if we don't participate in those liturgies? By the same token, during Great Lent, we offer additional services during Great Lent. How do our children know the difference between a normal season and Great Lent if they've never been to a pre-sanctified liturgy or the Akathist service on Friday? If you're thinking of starting, do the Akathist service. It's beautiful, it's less than an hour, and it's on a Friday. Great way to end a week. So part of it is participating in the life of the church, not just on Sunday, is normal. So I know there's a lot about how to figure out the normal in that. But kids who do that grow up and tend to be the kids that actually become adults who participate in the life of the church. It's not a guarantee. There's a lot of things that the world pulls our children in the direction of. But if I find those adults that are committed, usually they have a story. I love doing this as a kid in church. I always went to this thing in the church. I always participated in this thing. That was always the thing that brought them along. So, as a contrast, and I'll close with this. I shared this story of my origin story here, this first parish that I was in, and how they approach children. I remember one of the first conversations I had with my parish council chair in that parish, the one who kind of led the charge to really go after me. And he wanted to know what I could do to get his teenage daughter to participate more in church. And I was kind of at a loss because She didn't come to church. And I could tell. That's part of the culture. If she came to church, she's not in liturgy. She's in the Sunday school room doing coloring sheets with the little kids. Self-fulfilling prophecy. Church has to be understood as the place where children are fully a part of it. So we see that demonstrated in this feast. The Mother of God presented to the temple, just as we present our children to God through baptism. Glory to Jesus Christ.